Why people could get into Düsseldorf? Because it's big, it has a bold name on Google Maps. Probably that's the reason. Let me explain. Düsseldorf was built in 12th century, but became important only in 14th century. For Americans, it may seem like a pretty old city, but for Europeans, that is a new built city. Many cities in the area were already very rich. For example, Soest, I make a previous video about. Soest was a huge trading town, and Düsseldorf was not even there back then. So my question, from the angle of history exploring, is Düsseldorf important and interesting at all? And the date of building is not the case here. Why? Because we have Dresden, for example. That is another really popular tourist city in Germany, maybe one of the most popular cities in Germany. And it also went imported somewhere in 15th century because Saxon rulers decided to move their residence to this city. With Düsseldorf, we have something similar. In 14th century, rulers in this region decided to move their residence here. But Dresden has marvelous architecture. That is a Baroque miracle. And compared to Düsseldorf, many people may think that Düsseldorf is a bit not that interesting. But wait, maybe Düsseldorf went through the same way and also became really interesting in popular city because of money investments from local rulers. Maybe Düsseldorf is a hidden gem in North Rhine-Westphalia. Maybe people are wrong when they're not coming to this city. And my goal here is to show you that Düsseldorf may be a great choice and there will be not a disappointment many people think it is. The first thing I had to say is that Germany has 16 states and Düsseldorf is the capital city of one of those German states. North Rhine-Westphalia is maybe the most important state in the country. In terms of what? If we're talking about economy and about number of residents, this region is overloaded by people. And actually you may see this as a great sign that tourist cities in this area may propose you something really interesting. Even though Düsseldorf is the capital, it is the second largest city after Köln and the seventh in Germany. Düsseldorf is located at the heart of Central European Economic Area. And now you have to understand the context. I will show you the map of this area and you will see how many settlements they have around two rivers, Rhine and Ruhr. In this economical area, they have, except of Düsseldorf, many other cities like Köln, Bonn, which was the capital of Western Germany, and Duisburg, Dortmund, and many other cities. So yes, for German economy, Düsseldorf is something of great importance. So we'll begin our trip with Kö, which stands for Königsallee. That is a trading heart of Düsseldorf, and it has really interesting history. Before the 18th century, Düsseldorf was just a small Baroque town. And it of course had fortifications, city walls. But after the war between Revolution of France and Holy Roman Empire, that was the medieval Germany, let's say, they made a treaty called Treaty of Lunéville, and that forced Düsseldorf to get rid of its fortification. So now Düsseldorf government had some place. They built a canal here and planted this alley with chestnut trees. And at first this alley was named after those. Then an accident happened in 1848 when someone threw shit into a king, literally.
And then to settle the conflict, they decided to rename this alley to Königsallee, which from German we can translate as Alley of the King. Then under Prussian government, this place began really important for trading, and that is where we have those trading routes. Basically, Düsseldorf became the place of mode, of current mode. And then they used Königsallee for exactly this trading, to popularize it, to make those small businesses on the side. Honestly, I'm not a fan of all this stuff or all those people wasting their money for nothing, so I think we should go to our next destination, which will be Little Tokyo. And that is the only Japantown in Germany. It has somewhere over 8,400 Japanese people. And even though they are a small minority in this city, the seventh small minority, they were able to shape this city in 50 years. But how did this happen that Japanese people had to move to this city? Basically, some interactions were even before the Second World War. The Second World War is the main reason, but we'll talk about this. First of all, we have to talk about a German businessman, Louis Kniefer, who was born in Düsseldorf. He was selected as a German consul in Japan. He had some interactions with Japanese culture and Japanese people. So when he came back to Düsseldorf, he decided to open a small Japanese trading house. And that was the first documented Japanese business of Siemens AG. You probably heard of this company before. Like I said, the true history began after the Second World War. Japan was majorly destroyed during World War II, and they needed some steel and chemicals for these renovations. And this area, Ruhr area, was really suitable for this. Düsseldorf was located between the Rhine and Ruhr, heavy industry, so they had lots of heavy industry here, which was exactly a great place for trading enterprises. And Düsseldorf, like I said, was in center between those two rivers. So Japanese people opened their businesses, companies, and they began to sell some products, some Japanese products for European market. This Japantown developed so well that even Japanese emperor visited this city in 1993. There is one more interesting thing about Japan in this city, and that is Eco House. Eco House is not located here, it is located on the other side of the Rhine River, and that is basically Japanese garden. It has Japanese temple and the largest Buddhism school in Europe. It all began with the man Yahan Numata, I hope I spelled it right, who decided that he wanted to bring the ideals of Buddhism into the Western world. So in 1988, he laid first stone to the construction of Japanese temple. Materials were transported from the real Japanese house near Tokyo. It had to be demolished, but he bought the materials and transported here to Düsseldorf. I highly recommend to visit this place because we don't have much of Japanese gardens in Germany, and that is a nice opportunity to feel this Japanese culture yourself. If if you'll go straight from the Kur, you will visit the Hofgarten. And the Hofgarten is the largest park in the center of Düsseldorf. It has really cool history because it had transition from Baroque style garden to English style. First of all, that is the oldest public garden in Germany. The oldest part of it was laid in 1769. What you have to understand now is that Düsseldorf until the 18th century was still a little Baroque town. They had, of course, fortifications, and outside those city walls they had a garden for noblemen, for dukes, basically for ornamental or vegetable gardens. Rich garden developed over the course of the 16th century. But after the Seven Years' War, everything went not so good for Düsseldorf. Düsseldorf faced major economical problems. They needed to repair this garden, and that created lots of jobs for poor people. Only after this they made this garden a public garden. But then the French came again, and after the coalition war, Düsseldorf was occupied. And French people, they cut down all the trees and blown up the Chinese pavilion and the court gardener's house, which is not really great, as you may assume. It sounds like an end to the garden, but then Düsseldorf people decided to rebuild it in English style. This garden also has some more interesting places, for example, like Napoleonsberg. Why is it named after Napoleon? Okay, first of all, that is a hill. And then when Napoleon occupied this region and Düsseldorf, he gave the right to this region and to Düsseldorf for planting huge territories to make them greener. And name to this hill is basically the gift from Düsseldorf people because of this law of Napoleon's. It also has gas lighting system. They have some LED lights, but not so commonly. Most of the time you will see here exactly gas lighting. They also have a bridge that is called a Golden Bridge, and that is the only one in pair with the Charles Bridge in Prague, which are lightened with those gas lamps. So yeah, only 2 bridges all over the world. I just forgot that I have to show you some monuments you must see when you will go through Kur and the Hofgarten. That is the Goethe Museum. That is one of the 3 largest museums dedicated to Goethe in Germany. And once it also was the largest private collection of Goethe's work. Goethe was really important for Germany and German culture. If you have a chance, you should visit this museum because it has lots of stuff to show. This building is called Kunstakademie, and that is the art center of Düsseldorf. It was founded in 1773 by the Elector Karl Theodor, and that is just a remarkable neo-Renaissance building. You may see multiple illustrations on the walls, which is nice to explore with a binocular if you have one.
course, it is not everything. That is only the first part of our trip to Düsseldorf. In the second part, I will show you the old town and the old point of view on this city. And in third part, I will show you some modern history of Düsseldorf and modern architecture. I definitely do not recommend you to miss those new parts, so you can subscribe. Of course, leave a like and the comments so I will know that this content was interesting for you. And I will see you under the second part of our trip to the city of Düsseldorf.